They left me with nothing but a single gingerbread cookie. They had no idea it was the key to their downfall. The late autumn sun streamed through the hospital window, casting long shadows across the sterile white room. The scent of antiseptic was overwhelming, but I barely noticed. My hand was wrapped around my mother's, her skin thin and cool to the touch. My mother, Isabel, a formidable businesswoman who had built a colossal empire from nothing, lay frail and silent, her breath as faint as a candle flame in the wind. Beside her bed, Mr. Dubois, our family lawyer for decades, sat with a grave expression, a heavy file resting on his lap. My mother's eyes fluttered open. Her voice was a mere whisper, but it held its usual clarity. "Mr. Dubois, please proceed." He nodded. "As per the last will and testament of Madame Isabelle Laurent, finalized 1 month ago." I held my breath. As her only daughter, I was prepared to inherit her life's work, the Alpine Serenity Thermal Resort, a sprawling luxury complex valued at €500 million. I would carry on her legacy. But the lawyer's next words shattered my world. The entirety of the Alpine Serenity Thermal Resort, including all properties and assets, with an estimated value of €500 million, will be bequeathed to the state to establish a charitable foundation for building schools and hospitals in underprivileged regions. Silence filled the room. I felt my mother's hand squeeze mine. I stared at her, bewildered. Why? That was her entire life's work. What about me? The questions swirled in my head, but I couldn't speak. Mr. Dubois cleared his throat and read the final lines. "To my only daughter, Alara, I leave a small gift, a token of my love. I hope you will understand my decision." And that was it. €500 million to charity, and a small gift for me. Humiliation washed over me. Did she think I was so incompetent that she'd rather give her empire away than entrust it to me? From the hallway, I heard the murmurs of my husband's family. They had been waiting like vultures. My husband, Marcus, entered first, followed by his mother and his sister, Helena. Their faces were masks of undisguised fury. "Isabel, my dear," my mother-in-law began, her voice dripping with venom. "After a lifetime of work, you're just giving it all away? What about our Alara? Don't you care for her at all?" I stood up, my voice trembling. "Mother, this is her decision. Please." "Her decision," she shrieked. "This family was counting on that inheritance. How are we supposed to live now?" Her words hit me like a slap. Their concern wasn't for me, but for the fortune they had lost. Their kindness, their affection, it had all been an act, predicated on my status as a future heiress. I looked at Marcus, searching for some sign of support, but he avoided my gaze. A chilling dread settled in my stomach. The real storm was just beginning. 2 days later, my mother passed away peacefully in her sleep. At the funeral, my husband's family put on a masterful performance of grief, but behind their crocodile tears I could hear their whispers. "The old fool threw it all away." After the service, Mr. Dubois met me in his office and handed me a small, exquisitely carved wooden box. "Your mother asked me to give this to you personally," he said. Inside, nestled on a bed of red velvet, was a single, ornate gingerbread cookie, a traditional leckerli, my mother's favorite. That was it, my inheritance. Tucked beside it was a small note in her firm handwriting. "When you are at your lowest point, break this open." I returned home to an atmosphere as cold as a tomb. "We need to talk," Marcus said, pulling me into our bedroom. He stammered for a moment before delivering the final blow. "My mother thinks we should divorce." I stood frozen. My mother's grave was still fresh, and they were already casting me out. "Why?" I whispered. "You know why," he said, looking at the floor. "Your mother gave everything away. I have my own family to think about. When your family was struggling, it was my mother who helped you," I said, my voice thick with disbelief. "You told me you loved me, not her money." Just then, his mother burst in, a divorce petition in her hand. "Love doesn't pay the bills," she sneered. "You're useless to us now. Sign this and get your things out of my son's house." I looked at the man I had loved, now standing silent and spineless. In that moment, any love I had for him and his family turned to ash. I signed the paper without a word. I packed a small suitcase, leaving behind all the expensive gifts they had ever given me. My only possession of value was the wooden box containing my mother's final gift. As I walked out the door, Helena called after me. "Enjoy the cookie, sister-in-law. Hope it doesn't make you too hungry." The door slammed shut, severing me from that life of lies. Alone on the street with no money and nowhere to go, I finally understood. This was my lowest point. That night, in a cheap, damp room in the city's industrial district, I remembered my mother's note. My hands trembled as I opened the box. The sweet, spicy scent of the gingerbread filled the air. I gently broke the cookie in half. It wasn't empty. Tucked inside a small wax paper wrapping was a heavy metallic object. It was half of a bespoke silver locket, intricately engraved. With it was a tiny, folded piece of paper. On it was a name and an address in the old town, Mr. Alistair Finch. Alistair. He had been my mother's loyal estate manager for years, a quiet, dignified man who had been like a grandfather to me. He had retired a few years ago, citing his health. Why would my mother want me to find him? A sliver of hope cut through my despair. The cookie wasn't an insult, it was a key. The next morning, I found the address, a modest, old townhouse at the end of a quiet cobblestone alley. I knocked, my heart pounding. The door opened to reveal Mr. Finch, older and more wrinkled, but with the same kind eyes I remembered. His expression shifted from surprise to sorrow as he took in my disheveled state. "Miss Ilara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Please, come in." Inside, he poured me a cup of warm herbal tea. "I came because my mother—" I began, placing my half of the locket on the table. Mr. Finch simply nodded. He disappeared into another room and returned a moment later. In his hand was the other half of the silver locket. He placed it next to mine, and the two pieces clicked together perfectly, forming a complete family crest. "Your mother entrusted this to me," he said. "She foresaw everything. She knew your husband's family for what they were, and she prepared a way out for you." He led me to a heavy safe concealed behind a bookcase. From it, he retrieved a black metal box and a small key. "She insisted you open it yourself." My hands shook as I unlocked the box. Inside, stacked in neat bundles, was a staggering amount of cash. 100,000 euros, Mr. Finch said softly. "Your mother's startup capital for you. She said a woman must have her own funds to be truly independent." Beneath the money was a sealed file. The words on the cover made my head spin. "Temporary power of attorney, the Alpine Serenity Thermal Resort." "The public will was a charade," Mr. Finch explained. "A test for your husband's family and a way to protect you. When they cast you out, thinking you were penniless, you became free. With this document, you are the legal interim director of the resort, with full operational authority until the state's foundation is formally established." My mother hadn't abandoned me. She had given me the most painful, most valuable lesson of my life. She had forced me to stand on my own 2 feet. "So, what is the next step?" I asked, my voice steady for the first time in days. "Now," Mr. Finch said with a determined glint in his eye, "we contact Mr. Dubois, and we begin your comeback." The very next day, we were in Mr. Dubois' office. After he read the documents, his professional demeanor broke into a smile of pure admiration. "Incredible. Isabel was always 10 steps ahead. This changes everything." He looked at me, no longer with pity, but with respect. "With this power of attorney, your authority is absolute, but we can do more. Your ex-husband's family treated you abominably. We will not let them get away with it." I recounted every suspicious financial request from Marcus and his family over the years. The large sum for a can't-miss property investment, the money for his mother's dream apartment. Mr. Dubois listened intently. 2 days later, his investigation bore fruit. "We found them, Miss Ilara," he announced over the phone. 2 luxury apartments, one in your mother-in-law's name, the other in Helena's. And we've traced the payments directly from your accounts right before the purchases were made. It's irrefutable proof of fraud. A cold fury settled over me. They had used my love and my mother's hard-earned money to fund their lavish lifestyles. I've already filed an emergency motion with the court, Mr. Dubois continued. By this afternoon, those properties will be frozen. They won't be able to sell or transfer them. This is our first move. The next target was the resort itself. I learned that in the days after my mother's funeral, Marcus had manipulated his way into the position of acting CEO. He swaggered around, telling everyone he was the new master. A loyal employee told me he'd overheard Marcus boasting, "That worthless woman Alara is nothing now. She deserved to be thrown out." The time for waiting was over. Dressed in a powerful navy blue suit, I arrived at the resort with Mr. Finch and Mr. Dubois. When I strode into the lobby, a wave of shock rippled through the staff. We went directly to the main boardroom, where Marcus was in the middle of a meeting, sitting arrogantly in my mother's chair. The smile froze on his face. "Alara, what are you doing here?" he stammered. I ignored him, addressing the room with a clear, firm voice. "Good morning. I am Alara Laurent. I am here today to exercise my legal authority." Mr. Dubois stepped forward, presenting the official documents. As per the legally binding power of attorney, Miss Alara Laurent is the interim director of this resort. All appointments made after the death of Madame Laurent are null and void. "This is ridiculous. It's fake," Marcus shouted. "The will said she got nothing." I finally turned to look at him, a cold smile on my lips. "Marcus, you're fired. As of this moment, you have no authority here. Security will now escort you from the premises." The head of security, a man loyal to my mother, immediately stepped forward. My former mother-in-law and Helena, who had been sitting in as special guests, were also shown the door. Marcus was dragged out, his face a mixture of disbelief and pure hatred. In a single moment, his stolen kingdom had crumbled. That night, we set a trap. Knowing Marcus and his mother would be desperate to destroy any evidence of their fraud, we planted a decoy file labeled embezzlement evidence on my desk. I made a loud phone call, mentioning I had a late dinner meeting and wouldn't be back until morning. Then, from a hidden security room, we watched. Just before midnight, a shadowy figure crept down the hall. Marcus. He clumsily picked the lock to my office, snatched the decoy file, and stuffed it into his backpack. The moment he turned to leave, the lights flashed on and the doors locked automatically. He froze, finding himself surrounded by me, Mr. Dubois, Mr. Finch, and the security team. "Looking for something, Marcus?" I asked calmly. He confessed everything, weeping and pathetically blaming his mother for the entire scheme, unaware that every word was being recorded. He had not only confirmed his own guilt, but had implicated his mother as the mastermind. The next morning, his mother and Helena stormed into the resort, screaming that I had framed their innocent boy. I had them brought to the boardroom. There, in front of key department heads, I played the security footage of Marcus breaking in. Then, I played the audio of his confession. My mother-in-law's face turned ashen. "Furthermore," I said, placing the deeds to her 2 frozen apartments on the table, "these were bought with my money. With your son's confession, this is no longer a civil dispute. It's a criminal conspiracy." Mr. Dubois presented them with a choice: sign a full confession, return the apartments, and repay every last euro they had taken, a sum totaling nearly 2 million, or face prosecution for organized fraud. Defeated, they signed everything. The court case was swift. Marcus was sentenced to 3 years in prison for theft and fraud. The judge officially approved the return of all assets to me and ordered Marcus to pay additional damages for emotional distress. In the months that followed, I poured all my energy into revitalizing the resort. I promoted loyal, talented staff and invested in a state-of-the-art wellness center, which quickly became a huge success. The resort thrived beyond anyone's expectations. Impressed by the turnaround, the government proposed a unique public-private partnership. They would be the majority owner, but I would be appointed the long-term CEO, retaining full control over operations. My mother's legacy was not only secure, it was set to grow. With the money recovered from my ex-husband's family, I established the Isabel Laurent Foundation, a fund to provide startup capital for women overcoming adversity. It was the perfect way to honor my mother's true spirit. Standing in my office, looking out over the magnificent resort, I realized the greatest inheritance my mother left me wasn't the money or the power. It was the lessons she taught me through her final, painful, brilliant plan. First, the lesson of preparation. She showed me that you must always be ready for the worst, to have a path forward when all seems lost. Second, the lesson of courage. The courage to face ugly truths, to fight for what is yours, and to stand up from where you have fallen. And finally, the most important lesson, the value of independence. A woman is only truly free when she stands on her own feet, reliant on no one but herself. Independence is the strongest armor you can wear. My story will continue, but I am no longer afraid. My mother gave me more than an empire. She gave me myself, and for that, I am eternally grateful.